Well, if you don't know, there's a guy named Matt Walsh, and Matt Walsh is he's a part of the I think the Daily Call caller that may be a prostitute. I don't know. The Daily Call caller. He is a guy who did a movie called What Is a Woman. So if you think about this, a lot of it is happening right now in real time with the athletes. And so what happens is men that were nothing in their arena of whatever sport they did, now all of a sudden are saying they're transgender, and they are getting the privilege of stepping down in the bracket of what is a high end and what is a low end. So they're on the low end of the men's spectrum. They go over to the women's, and now they are the bee's knees. They're the strongest. I mean, even the bone density is just, it's so obvious, the broadness of the shoulders, that they are seriously coming into a whole realm of physically weaker people than them, and they're dominating in the sport, whatever that sport may be. And this is a big lose for sports everywhere, because now because they're being platformed as being some sort of pioneer in a new world order, and they are being uplifted. They're being showcased around like Bud Light. They had Dylan on all their stuff and got a huge backlash and lost millions, and it may have even been billions. And it begs the question, why is this agenda being pushed? Why is this agenda being forced on our kids, on our society, on things that we eat, things that we drink? Stuff that has nothing to do with anything in this realm is being paraded around in this new fabricated arena, for lack of a better term. Well, if you know anything about the government, if you know anything about politics, if you know anything about, and when I say politics, I'm talking both sides of the aisle. There are very few people that are in politics right now that have no agenda, that have no backhanded anything going on in the back door that they would like to be hidden. It's because politicians they end up being corrupt. Now, they may have started on a good journey years ago, but it seems, just from history, it would seem that the longer someone's in politics, the more they make deals, the more, and it's not a overnight corruption. It is a slowly going, and this is the same way, we're a Christian podcast here. This is the same thing with sin. Like, this is how pastors, these mega church pastors, I'm sure there's a lot more on the smaller scale, but these are just the guys and then men and women who are platformed in front of everybody. So their stage is larger. So that means they are more magnified. They're more, when they mess up, everybody knows it because everybody's talking about them. They are on the forefront of the church in general. Just, they are the kind of the faces of the church to the world. You got your Stephen Furticks, your Craig Groeschels, your Mike Todds. You have all these people who are on a stage in front of thousands of people. Last week, or maybe it was early this week, I don't remember. I think it was last week. We looked at Mike Todd's church, and I think 20,000 people in any given weekend for their services to show up, and that's including online and everything. 20,000 people. That is bigger than my hometown where I come from and where I got arrested and got in all my trouble. It was 17,000 people. 20,000 people come into one service. That's pretty cool. So anyways, you have all these guys who are on the forefront. They are magnified mess-ups. So then you have the corruption not only in the church, but you have corruption in our government, because the way the government's set up, and I heard some of this stuff, and I'm like, that is the dumbest setup I've ever heard in my life. They can somehow tag in, I don't know all the politics, I'm not very political, but somehow in my basic understanding, and if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments in the chat, let me know. But you have a law or something going through, and things that have nothing to do with it can be tagged on the end of it and can tail in their way through or something like that. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be allowed. I don't know how that got set up that way, but it is stupid. And so we have all these things that are pushing and pushing and pushing an agenda, and then you come back to transgenderism. Everybody, now listen, I can really understand wanting to be a part of something that makes you feel like you're special. I really can't. I mean, I'm a pastor of a church. I understand people wanting to be a part of something, to feel like you're a part of the movement that's happening, to feel like you blended in before and now you can stand out. I'm not saying everybody who claims transgender is that way, but I understand why it's pulling people in to now it's like an uproar, and people are like, well, now they just feel brave enough. No, it's called mental illness. It's called demonic oppressions and things like that. Like That is serious. You have Bible verses. Look this up. I'm not going to do it for you. You need to be able to critically think yourself. But I want you to look this up. Look in the Bible. Just do a Google search on basic Bible stuff and search cross-dressing in the Bible. And you'll be surprised. It was talked about to the church people that there were things going on that should not have been going on. So why is it being so forcefully publicized in our society today? Well, let me help you out with that, because I talked about Matt Walsh a minute ago. Here he is, and he is, let me put it on, I'm going to put it on time and a half speed, because, not time and a half, that's going to be like, let's do it. That way we can move through this a little bit faster. But I want you to listen to this.
So we've spent plenty of time in recent weeks discussing the horrific, unethical, dangerous ends of gender affirmation. Now, the media has frantically insisted that we have to stop.
Before we go any further, not everybody has the same mindset of
It's the right thing to do, but also in large part because gender affirmation surgeries are, quote, big money makers. She boasted that a phalloplasty, which is the construction of an artificial penis, which is made using flesh cut from other parts of the body, she said that those could be worth $100,000 when you factor in all of the follow-ups.
$100,000 from a male part being fabricated with all the treatments and everything that go along with it. $100,000 from one person doing it. One person getting this done and going through the process, $100,000. Is it registering yet? Why this may be
that are necessary. Listen.
Starting in January 1st of 2017, according to the Affordable Care Act, insurance carriers are mandated to cover medical expenses for trans folks. Some of our BUMC financial folks in October of 2016, started a couple years ago, put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in, and this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery, and it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money.
Researchers make a lot of money. So I'm going to ask you again, why is it that this is being pushed so hard? The scandal behind a lot of political people, they're not supposed to be able to trade and do things, especially when they have insider information. It's supposed to be illegal, but yet you hear stories and rumors of people doing it all the time because they know where the money's going to, what people are going to flock to.
So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s, so that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. Now, these I got from the internet, but it's from the Philadelphia Center for Trans.
Now, did you hear what she said? She kind of did a little smirk and said, now, this is not on the internet. And why do you think it's not on the internet? Because if people had more knowledge that they could search and look up, they would be wiser to all of these things that are just meant to push and pull people in to make more money. If they had the knowledge, maybe they would stop and think and say, well, maybe it's not the best choice. Maybe I should talk to somebody about my mental health well-being that I can trust, that I can lean on, instead of going to a medical professional, because what they're going to do, because their pockets are getting padded, is they're going to recommend you do. That's why we have medical reps. And if this is your job and this is what you do, please don't think that I'm talking about you or upset with you. I understand you got to work just like everybody else. But a lot of the medications that doctors push out, their pockets are being padded. They are being supported to push out that medication instead of find natural remedies and things that can work that would be less damaging to the body. If you look at any commercial, any side effect for any medication, it's almost as bad or worse than what it's trying to help you with. I saw one, I don't remember what the stuff was, but it was talking about the side effects. And on the bottom, in the little, the fast, they're reading the subtext, but they make it super fast where you can't 100% understand it. It said, you may suffer both from diarrhea and constipation. I don't even understand how that would work. But from the same medicine, you could do either this or that. Those extremes are the opposite of each other. But yet the same medication, one pill, can do that to you and make your life miserable.
Transgender surgery, which does a lot of surgery for patients. And I just want to give you an idea of how much these bottom surgeries are making. And I think this has to be an underestimate. This is for a vaginoplasty. They're saying they're quoting roughly around $20,000 for a vaginoplasty, but that doesn't include your hospital stay. That doesn't include your post-op visits. Yep. That doesn't include your anesthesia, your OR. So I would think that this has to be a gross underestimate. I think that's just like the surgeon's piece of it, which anybody who's ever been in the hospital.
Just the surgeon's piece of it.
Knows that that's like 10% of it.
Do you hear what she said? The surgeon's piece was only 10 of it. 10% of it. 10%. Y'all, this is crazy. Only 10%.
And then the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate. If they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty, there's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, said that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties. And that is
Just by making that, their entire organization is funded just off of doing that. Are your eyes opened yet? Yo, it's not. People are being mutilated by people who are money hungry and don't care about the people that they're actually doing it to. They're only worried about the bottom line for them.
a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive. They require a lot of follow-ups. They require a lot of OR time. And they make money. They make money.
Wow.
Now, profitable though it may be, there are some medical professionals who take the Hippocratic Oath seriously and object to carving up a person's body in this way. Vanderbilt was apparently concerned that some of their own staff might fall into that category. So at another Grand Rounds lecture in 2019, a woman named Dr. Ellen Clayton, who's a pediatric specialist at Vanderbilt, told those assembled that if they refuse to participate due to their religious beliefs in these procedures, there will be consequences.
Now, before we watch this clip, did you hear what he said? And they're about to say this out loud. This woman's going to talk to the people that are there and saying that if this is you, they're not paying for your self-righteous beliefs or something like that. I don't remember what she said. We're about to watch it. But does it sound familiar? It sounds a lot like the same language as the whole, am I going to keep my job because I won't get vaccinated stuff. Think about it. It's the exact same language.
Conscientious objections are problematic, she explained, and those who object really shouldn't work at Vanderbilt at all. Listen.
If you are going to assert conscientious objection, you have to realize that that is problematic. You are doing something to another person, and you are not paying for the cost for your belief. I think that is a real, I think that's a real issue. So I think, so yes, Vanderbilt, if someone has a conscientious...
Look how they have it framed up on the, I have it where you can't see my mouse, but I'm pointing at it. You can't see it. On the back screen where it says, refusing to deliver medical care. That's what they're framing it up as. See, people on the opposite side of truth always frame it up as if the truth is the enemy and you're the one doing something wrong. You're the one, you're the transphobe, you're the homophobe, you're all these phobias. I'm not scared of these people. Matter of fact, I love these people. I understand in your head and in your mind, you think that you are one way or you only have a propensity to do or go in one direction. I get that. How do I get that? Because I have struggles and mess ups and hang ups too that most of you will never know about. You'll never see me cry about it. My wife is my best friend. I talk to her about this stuff all the time. I'm very open and honest with her. That's how our marriage is. I can confide in her. She is my confidant. Anything that I have issue with or that I struggle with, I tell her. Matter of fact, earlier this week, I told her, I said, baby, porn's trying to pull me in the heart. It's just like all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it tries to blindside me and pull me back to watching it again, back to doing old things, back to old habits. We all have this in our life. This is why if you're an alcoholic, don't go hang out in the bar. If you are trying to quit smoking and you're doing really well, don't go to the smoke spot and hang out with your old buddies because you'll end up doing it again. Run from things. Like this is a solid argument on the foundation of truth is that when you really see truth, everything else next to it, when they inspect dollar bills, think about this. And this is why it blows my mind and it's so confusing. And actually, let me circle back to this, what I was saying about my wife. My wife is that confidant. There are people probably around you that are watching right now that just need somebody to talk to and work through their sinful nature with them and show them the light of Jesus. But you're too busy trying to prove that you're right to show that they actually have somebody that loves them, that God actually loves them, and that their version of love trying to be fulfilled in sexual immorality is actually a false sense of what God has for them. Like that's what it is. It's a perversion of the actual true love that God has for us, that he desires to be with us. He desires to have that relationship with us. And if you look at things, you can see how the enemy has distorted and perverted them to be twisted up in something that they were never actually meant to be. And people will take this position on their truth and say, it's my truth. Well, the my in front of it makes it personal. That makes you self-righteous, and that is wrong. Because we as the creation put ourselves in the place of the creator, and we can't do that. That's why all these things don't make sense. and don't add up, and it gets their minds twisted up to where they think that they're saying truth because it's what makes sense to them, or it's because that's what their struggle is. Like right now, we have in some schools across America, I don't know where, I didn't look this up, but it just came to my mind, that are teaching children how to appropriately view porn. Children. And I don't mean teenagers in high school. I'm talking young kids, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th graders, right before they start hitting puberty and start being confused by a lot of stuff. They're having classes on, look it up. Just do small research. Look it up. They're coming after our children. We're seeing the effects of it in our adults, but on the back door, silently, they're moving into our children. Why? Because they want to get the enemy. The devil's been busy, y'all. The enemy wants to get a large gap between truth and the new truth, whatever we say it is. And with that big gap, he has a room to grow and work the next generation coming up and to mold them however he sees fit. And that's dangerous. We got to be on guard. We got to pay attention. Let's continue.
Objection to participating in this sort of surgery. It probably has to accommodate you to the extent that you can find another person who can do your job, who doesn't have an objection, other things of that nature. But
See, she just canceled out their conviction. She said, we can find somebody else who can do your job without your conviction. That blows my mind.
want you to take home that saying that you're not going to do something because of your conscientious, because of your religious beliefs, is not without consequences. And it should not be without consequences. And I just want to put that out there. We are given enormous, if you don't want to do this kind of work, don't work at Vanderbilt.
Now, is it legal to make those kinds of threats? I mean, can she legally promise consequences for those who exercise their First Amendment rights? Well, whether she can legally do that or not, she did. And the point was made clear. Vanderbilt just got into the gender transition game, and now it is such a central part of its core mission and its business plan that any doctor who objects is not welcome to work in the hospital at all.
Now, how did it get that way? Because they found out by trial and error that this is probably one of the most lucrative things that they do, like we just saw at the beginning of the video. So what does that mean? That means now that it's the center of their organization, if you take that out, now their organization crumbles. So now they're stuck and they can't remove it. You can't remove the cancer because now everything is built, grafted in, and the roots are deep into it. So it now supplies everything else. Which what does that mean? That means that now all the upper crust people who are making millions and millions and millions, the organization that are making millions, possibly billions, now they are stuck. They cannot take anything. They can't take this out, or it will dry up their well of income.